Hi friends, my name's Steven. I'm a lifelong railroad enthusiast. This is my channel, Signal Up Productions, where my friends and I make all sorts of fun and informative railroad-related videos. In today's video, I'm going to show you how to set up routes on a Digitrax DCC system using a DT602 throttle. But before we get into that, if you are new to the channel, go ahead and take a moment to subscribe. And if this video was help to you or you found it interesting, go ahead and give me a like. Now let's get into it. Okay, so if you're new to Digitrax systems, you can set up a route inside the command station if your command station supports route features. What is a route? A route is when you are going to, well, I'm going to give it to you the way they give it to you in the Digitrax manual. Like a locomotive could be consisted, where you have multiple locomotive addresses being controlled by a single top address. So if you're running, say, 2 or 3 locomotives on one throttle, you would consist all the locomotives together and control just the lead locomotive. Switch control can be done the same way using routes inside the command station. Now you'd find that helpful if you had a large yard system with many different turnouts. Instead of controlling each one individually with a throttle, throwing this one and then throwing this one and then throwing this one, so on and so forth, you could set up a route, predetermine which switches would throw or close given whatever track you're wanting to use. Now in the case of our new Windy City expansion here, we have 8 different tracks that lead into our new staging area that we're building, and there are 7 different turnouts that could get you into any one of those tracks. As you can probably see in the video here, it's a complex ladder system. It's not a simple ladder, it's a compound ladder, and there's multiple switches that you would have to throw to get into any one of those 8 tracks. So what we're going to do is set up routes on our throttle so that all we have to do is call up one track number, and it will automatically throw all of the corresponding turnouts that are affected by that track to their appropriate position. So what we're going to do first is I'm going to show you here on the throttle what I've already done with one of them. I set this up a little while ago. I had to come up here earlier tonight and refresh my memory on how to do this, and it took me about 10 minutes before I realized what I was doing wrong. But I've got it now. I'm going to show you guys. So I've done all that work for you. Come up here to the throttle. Let me turn my light off. That seems to be there. That helps with being able to see this here. So on your 602 throttle, we've got the menu button. You're probably familiar with that by now. We're going to press the menu button. We're going to go to Utility Task, which is option 3. And then you see right down here we've got the Route Edit option, which is option 4. And if you can see here, we've got our different route combinations that we can set up already. You've got 32 choices, 32 different routes that you could set up in a one single command station. And it says in the instruction manual that you can use the left knob to go through the different lists. Let me turn it there so you guys can see that better. And so I can go through all the different lists that I've set up already. You can see a couple of them are blank there. Those are the ones I set up, and then I deleted them so that I could come back and show you guys on video how to set that up. We go into our menu right here because it went out of the menu 3, and then Route Edit is number 4. And we can see that, I don't know if you can see that, but the top there it says our list number 1 is blank. If we go up here to list number 2, we can see the different turnouts that I've established for that. So we've got turnout number 90 is closed, 91 is thrown, 93 is closed, 95 is thrown, and 96 is closed. The one that's highlighted there is switch number 507. When 507 gets closed, then all of the corresponding turnouts will go to their position that we've programmed into the list. You might be asking, well, I don't have a 507 switch address on the layout. You're right. The highest switch address we have on our UPSF layout is number 96. So what we've done is just like a DCC consist, where you have all these different addresses are looking for the control of that top address. Well, in this case, the top address doesn't actually exist on the layout. It's just a make-believe number. What I did is I started it with a number that I knew wasn't already used somewhere else on the layout. 500, a range of 500. I know there's nothing on the layout that uses that number. But that last number corresponds to the track number of our yard here. We have track 1 through 8. So number 507 would get me onto track number 7. You can make that up. Use any number you want that's within the range of numbers that can be used for turnout control. So I've already set up the routes for track 1 through 8. Actually, track 1 through 7. Route 8, I did it, I deleted it, and then I'm going to show you guys now how to do that. Alright, so if you guys are new to using a Digitrax system and you're just now learning about all the different features and functions that Digitrax offers with their systems, you may have come across in some of the different literatures an option called route editing or setting up routes. And what a route is in Digitrax, it allows you to combine several different turnout addresses into a single operation. When you have a complicated yard ladder, like what we have here in our new Windy City expansion, we've got 7 different turnouts that lead to 8 different tracks in our new expansion yard. And instead of operators having to go down through the ladder, throwing each individual turnout one at a time, we can put those turnouts that are affected by that particular track in a route. Then the route is controlled by a single top address. When that address is called up and activated, then all of the corresponding turnouts that are part of that route list throw or close to their appropriate position. We're going to program that using our 602 throttle, and I'm going to show you how to do that right now. Alright, so we've got our manual handy, the manual for the 602 throttles. We've got that handy, we've read through it. It's actually on page 23 if you have an actual paper copy of the manual. It's right here, it's the route editor paragraph, and it explains how to do that. I'm going to explain here in the video how to do that. So we're going to turn our display on the throttle. I'm going to get it up here where you guys can see it. Then we're going to go to the menu, and we're going to choose option number 3, which is the utility tasks. And then we've got our route editor, which is right there, number 4. And we can see that there's a list. We've got number 1 of 32. There's 32 possible lists that you can set up, 32 possible routes that we can establish. And you would add the turnout numbers that you want to throw or close here on the column on the left. So using the left dial, we can go through all of the different routes that I've already set up. Some of them are blank there because I came up here earlier and set these routes up just to test to see how it works, and then I deleted a couple so I could show you guys how to do that. So let's look at this right here. We've got this list number 2, route number 2. The one that's highlighted there at the top, number 507, we can see that when I close number 507, all of these other turnout addresses that are not highlighted are also going to go to their corresponding position there. Switch number 90 is going to close, 91 is going to throw, 93 is going to close, 95 is going to throw, and 96 is going to close. All because we just controlled one single address. Now the way you set that up, is once you're in the route edit utility, you go to the empty list or the list that you're going to start working on. So in this particular list, we're going to call this, or we're going to use this list to control all the turnouts that lead to track number 8 in our yard here. Alright, so the easiest way to do this is to write down all of the turnouts that are affected that need to be changed in order for our crews to get to track number 8 here. So we see we've got switch number 96, and it's going to be the diverging route, so we've got that set up to be thrown. So 96 needs to be thrown. Next switch is number 95. It also needs to be thrown. 95 is thrown. Number 93 is closed. 93 is closed. 91 is thrown. 91 thrown. And switch number 90 is closed. 90 is closed. Let's look at that real close here. So we need these switch addresses to be thrown or closed in order for a train to get from the main track up through the ladder to track number 8. Alright, so one trick about setting up routes that's not explicitly explained in the manual is that the switch number that you're going to program to be the top number, the one that we're going to control to get all of our physical turnouts to change to get us to that track, that address actually doesn't have to be a real switch address on your layout. So just because all of our turnouts have a physical DCC decoder that controls those motors, and those are real addresses, and we can still control them individually, even though they're part of the route. The top address, the top switch address that we're going to program as the one that we're going to control to get into this track, doesn't have to be an actual switch. It can be a phantom switch or just a make-up number. The highest number switch that we have on the layout is 96, which is actually right here. So we obviously don't want to use a switch number that's in use somewhere on the layout, because then every time somebody throws that switch, all of these switches are going to throw or close to try and get a train onto that track. Instead, we want to use a really high number out of the range of anything we would ever use on the layout. We're going to use the 500 series addresses in here. The number doesn't really matter, but as long as it makes sense to you. If I have a switch number 508, well, that'll let me know that I'm going to get to track 8. See, if 507 is going to get me to track 7, 506 is going to get me to track 6. That way I know nobody's ever going to program a decoder, switch decoder, accessory decoder out on the main layout, because they're never going to get that high. So we're going to make our list. We're going to use 508 as the top address. We're going to use our list that we made here of all of the different switch addresses to get us to that track, what they need to be thrown or closed. And then we're going to save that. Then I'll show you when we can control that 508 address, and all of the other turnouts will throw or close to what they need to be. Alright, so we're already in the route edit window, as I showed you earlier. We're going to start by adding the switch addresses to the list. So the first switch we need to add is number 96. We need it to be thrown. We can see there's a little T right there, so that's thrown. We're going to add it to the list. See how it moves down? We're going to do that for the next one. 95, and it's also needs to be thrown, so we'll add it. But number 93 needs to be closed. So I'm going to add 93. I'm going to push the A button, which is going to switch it to be closed. And we're going to add it. And then we're going to go down to add 91. It needs to be thrown, so we're going to add it. And then switch number 90. Switch number 90 needs to be closed. So I'm going to flip that over so that it's closed. I'm going to add it. Now that I've got all of the physical turnouts that we need to operate in order to get to track 8, we're going to add the fake address, the top address, 508. We see how it's, I want to do it whenever I operate 508 closed. If you want to operate 508, if you want to operate switch address 508 and to be thrown, you can just leave it thrown. But I'm going to have it where it's closed, but I'm not going to add it because then that add it to the list. I want it to stay highlighted. So I'm going to save it. Now I've saved that list. If I exit, we can go into our switch menu, dial up switch number 508, and when I close it, we just heard all of the turnout motors for all of the switches that are on that leg operate to whatever position they need to be to get our train to track number 8. Alright, so we see here I have thrown or closed switch 96, and I've closed switch number 95, both of which will not allow our train to come up here to track number 8, which is on this leg right here. So whenever I operate switch address 508 and I close that, we can watch that both points, this point and this point, will operate to the thrown position to allow our train to come up the ladder to track number 8. Alright, so one thing that I wanted to point out is that say you added a switch address onto your list by mistake, or you inadvertently saved it as a close and you needed it to be actually thrown. So you can use the right knob on your throttle, and you can go down, you can scroll down and highlight the address that you need to change. Let's say we want to change switch number 93 and we want that to actually be thrown. So we can update it by highlighting it. Clicking A there, we can see that it changed to thrown, but you have to remember to make sure and save it when you're done. Otherwise, whenever you exit the menu, it's not going to save those changes. But I don't want to save that because I want 508 to be where 93 is closed. So I'm going to go back. I'm going to save it just in case I messed something up there. So that's if you're wanting to change an address that you've already previously programmed into your list. The top address is always going to be the address that is what operates the route. Then let's say you made a change to your ladder and you don't need that address you don't need it on your list anymore. You can highlight that particular address and use the F button, which is up here. You can see the word delete in your menu. So we're going to press the F button and then it will actually delete that address off of your list, and now we've just got the addresses that were left. Then you can go through and add, say, a different address number onto your list here, and then save it when you're done. Now, as you can see here on our list, our top line is blank. It's because I went through there and was adding and deleting addresses on a list that we had previously programmed, and now my 508 is no longer there. So the first thing I need to do, because I want this to be for our track 8 as we programmed just a little bit ago, so I need to add switch number 93 back in there, and we want it to be closed, so I'm going to add that. And then I have to have the phantom address that we're going to control in that top position, because that's the only way the route works. So it's 508. And I want it to where I close it, will operate it, so there it is. Now I want to save it. Always save it when you're done adding or taking things away or changing things on your route list. Alright, so one other thing I want to point out to you guys is when we have a yard ladder like this, obviously one of the switches is going to be the first switch in the ladder. In this case, it's switch number 90. The only choice that switch number 90 has is either to go into track 1 or onto the rest of the ladder. As trains come up our main track here and they want to go to track 1, they really only need to operate one address. There's not multiple addresses, turnout addresses that they're going to have to change to get to their track like they would on the rest of the ladder onto the other tracks. So we really wouldn't have to program a route for this one switch. The crew would just operate switch 90 and that would take them into track 1. But for consistency, so that 502 gets us to track 2 and 503 gets us to track 3, I'm going to go ahead and create a route. It's unnecessary, but it makes it consistent, so you could just remember 501, 502, 503 on down the list. So I'm going to go ahead and create that route now, and by going into our route edit mode here, option 3, route edits number 4, and I'm going to scroll up to a list, 56, 504, 503, 502. So here's a blank list, list number 8, and to do that I'm going to do switch number 90 needs to be thrown. I'm going to add it to the list, and 501, when it's closed, is going to be the address that operates the route. I'm going to save that. When I'm done, I can exit using the X button on the throttle, and then whenever I operate switch number 501 in the closed position, it throws that switch into track 1. That'll make it really easy for crews to be able to know that all of the switches that they need to get to that particular track are thrown or closed appropriately, and we'll get them down the ladder without a whole lot of issues. Alright, so there you have it. Pretty simple and straightforward setting up routes using a DT602 throttle. The advantage is being able to just dial up one turnout address to get you to the one track that you need to come down, and without having to worry about all the other turnouts that you don't really need to operate. What top address you use is up to you, as long as it doesn't also coincide with another address that's physically on the layout somewhere. Definitely pick an address that's not used, and logically, whatever phantom address you pick for your top, make it where it's easy to remember what track you're going to operate your train into. So like in our case, track 8 has an address of 508, track 6 has an address of 506. Very easy to remember. Operating 506 closed, we'll throw all of the corresponding turnouts to get my train into track 6. Pretty easy and simple and straightforward. If you have any questions, leave them down below in the comments. Maybe go ahead and share this video with your friends in your training group, and we'll look for you guys on the next video. Thanks for watching.